It's our first full NBA slate of the year, and you know what that means. Time to dig in and do what we always do here on the Splash Play NBA channel. We're going to dig in. Oh, I say dig in too many times already. We're going to get going, look at my projections, compare to some of the industry leaders, in particular, our friends over at Stokastic. We're going to look at the top plays overall, top projected plays, best value plays. We'll also run over to the Sims, see what the Sims think are the best plays, independent of my interference with my little data. And of course, by the end of this video, you'll know all the must plays along with my splash plays for today, the October 22nd NBA slate. It is already a little bit of chaos. Karl-Anthony Towns getting ruled out right before the show, so I had to do some rotation rebuilding for the Knicks. Stokastic had not updated for that yet. I'd use them for my minutes, but as you guys know, and you missed yesterday's video, if you did miss it, hopefully you didn't, but shout out to all you guys that did watch. Appreciate you guys hitting that like button, subscribing over here. 100 likes for the first video we're doing. That makes me very happy here as we're resuscitating this channel that's been sleeping in dormant for about 5 months since the end of last NBA season. But now we're back on the grind here, of course, covering DraftKings first and foremost, but you'll be able to see some data here. I'll show you on screen, in particular, the PRA numbers here. If you want to use stuff for prop bets, you want to use stuff for FanDuel, you want to use stuff for whatever you're playing, you can do that as well and get access to my data as well by joining the channel. Click the link in the description for more details on that. But hope it was a good slate for you guys, good opening slate for you guys, because it was a nice one for me. Definitely could not be one of the perfect lineups, with it being a slate where you needed Kason Wallace. You also needed AJ Mitchell, your two lesser Thunder players, but did get right that soon people are going to try to play Luka and SGA. Ended up being a Luka Şengün lineup. Of course, me on Stokastic Live before lock, I'm bravely like, yeah, you got to play perhaps some Kevin Durant. He's going to be low owned. He's a rocket, and nobody wants to pay that price tag. Meanwhile, Şengün was there all along and looked fantastic. So shout out that. Yabu do. I mean, so Yabu, another one we have to talk about with Towns, but we'll get there in the value stage of things. But Karl-Anthony Towns ruled out. My expectation, based on how the preseason rotations worked, is they're going to get Trey Jemison and Ariel Hakporti playing center today, and not, you'll get a little bit of a minutes boost for Yabu, but I don't think it's a guarantee he starts, so that's going to be something we'll have to watch getting closer to lock. And don't be late. Fuck off. It was 1 minute late, but I appreciate it. You don't know what to do to the next news. I mean, right away, my take on that, we'll talk about the top projected players here in a moment. Towns was going to look like one of the best plays on the slate for me, so really changed what I had. That's why I had to rerun everything last minute. Kind of a pain in the ass, but we got to do what we got to do to make sure to give you guys the best and most accurate info I can when we record these videos, or I do them live, rather, at 2 p.m. Eastern every day. For Towns, you're giving up so much production overall. You also really meaningfully change the outlooks for Jalen Brunson. Like, he looks now like one of the best plays in the slate. You could see him right here with a 49.6 projection for me. Again, Stokastic isn't updated yet, so we'll see how high they go with it. But he's averaged about 1.5 fantasy points per minute without Karl-Anthony Towns and Josh Hart. And because the Knicks, they have changed over the coaching staff, you're not going to get that endless driven into the ground run that you get from Tom Thibodeau last year, potentially, with the change over to Mike Brown. It's still a spot for Mike Brown, whoever the fuck the coach is there. I think Mike Brown, right? Am I right about that? Let's look up Knicks coach. I know he's a black man, and I know his name is Mike. Here we go. Mike Brown. I got it right. Yeah, there we go. Mike Brown, Knicks coach. We did it. Point being is, we don't know how it's going to go exactly compared to last year, but it's one of those situations where we did see enough time, with the Knicks, being without Towns, being without Mitchell Robinson, who's also out today, being without Josh Hart. You could sort of make some inferences, and that's a lot of what I try to get my data to do for me. And shout out all you guys hanging out here live again. Hit that like button, subscribe. I appreciate it a bunch here as we try to get this channel going again. Try to get 100 likes in every video. That's the goal for the year / forever. Brunson might have 60% usage. He does have, I think, here, I'll just quickly the numbers for the Knicks without Karl-Anthony Towns. Brunson, 33.6% usage, and this is also with Josh Hart off. I think I might have taken Mitchell Robinson off as well. But about 34% usage for Brunson, 42% assist rate. Both are pretty meaningful increases. 1.47 fantasy points per minute. Precious Achiuwa not on the team anymore, so what he did doesn't matter. OG Anunoby, 1.07 fantasy points per minute without Towns, Hart, etc. Mikal Bridges, 0.8. He's really never that good in some of the splits you have for the Knicks. Obviously, in the playoffs, he did play well, and he got paid massive money again in the offseason, so if you want to give him a boost up, he's just never been a great fantasy producer in my data, and I think any data you could look at. And Miles McBride goes to 0.99 fantasy points per minute. Not much that matters because you were losing more big men than you are some of the guards, but maybe he gets a few minutes somehow if they don't go big. Anyway, top projected guys, and right away, a pretty big discrepancy between my projections and Stokastic's. Giannis, your number one guy for them, 54.7 is what I have. He's actually my number one guy as well, but they have that 60.1. That results in 51% expected ownership for Giannis. As we get some more value opening up, this Knicks stuff's going to change things around a little bit, whether it is Trey Jemison, whether it is Yabusele, who's 3,800 on DraftKings today. You're going to get some more value coming in, as we know, starting lineups too. Guys like Ryan Kalkbrenner might be starting for the Hornets. He might matter in the slate. There's a really important player that I know has been talked a lot. If you watched any content about NBA DFS today, PJ Washington, he's 3K minimum. I don't know what DraftKings did. I guess it's a little bit of an IQ test for day one, but he's expected to be your primary ball handler alongside Cooper Flagg in the big backcourt, the big lineup they're doing for the Mavs. And normally in NBA DFS, when you have a guy projected, I think in PJ Washington's case, over 25 fantasy points, 3K salary, you just play that guy, figure out how to get unique around that. There's enough value, so I could see how people immediately will pair Giannis and PJ Washington. I don't think Giannis kills you today or anything, but I do think you're introducing, some more guys to the rotation. Miles Turner, I don't think a one-to-one swap with what we're leaving behind Brook Lopez probably takes a little bit more away. And he's certainly getting paid like he should have a larger role than Brook Lopez had for that team. Bobby Portis still took a lot of usage last year. Like Giannis, I think Giannis is a strong player. I just don't have him as high as Stokastic does. So he's coming up a lot, coming up less for me. 51% expected ownership for the field, according to Stokastic. I got him at 16%. And of course, all the Stokastic data that I show you here on screen, the tools as well, get it 15% off. Link in the description. I just want to make sure to attribute them here because I use their data pretty liberally here on stream. But it's important because they're an industry leader and there's more out there. I just don't personally use ETR data for this part. I use them for NFL. I don't use them for NBA. SaberSim, the projections aren't really what you're getting the value out of there. It's more the tools and products. But they're another one if you want to kind of market compare like we do, more so for NFL. For me, this is NFL. For me, it's like my projections versus Stokastic. So that's the comparison. Because I know a couple people asked about ETR yesterday. Let's see. We got Victor Wembanyama, 10-9 salary. The 3 to 6 are close to the keyboard. That's true. And Ryan, I know, a FanDuel fan. Today, PJ Washington, 6,100 on FanDuel, 3K salary on DraftKings. So just an incorrect pricing for whatever reason. Victor Wembanyama, a little bit under-owned to me at 11%. Surprised to see this much going to Giannis, this much less for Wemby. You do have no De'Aaron Fox to start the year, though I kind of think Dylan Harper coming in, depending on how many minutes he plays, he might soak up some of that usage almost one-to-one with what Fox leaves behind because he was a real ball-dominant guard in college, guy that I like a lot as well when he actually gets some run, or we know he's guaranteed to get the run out there. But it's always going to be tough with Wemby. His rates always strong, not quite as strong as Giannis per minute. But to me on the slate, you can see in the sim here in my top 150 lineups with my projections overlaid on it, 16% Giannis, 14% Wemby. Looks to me like more of a balanced slate. Looks to me, kind of a slate where you're paying down for a few more guys in the 9K range. Maybe you get 3 guys above 9K or 3 guys around 9K if you're counting Brunson, 8,600. Get maybe 3 of those guys and then a more balanced build. I think that's what I'm getting in my lineups, having not kind of combed through them with a fine tooth. Some of my optimal projected lineups are like Brunson. I got Walter Clayton in this one. OG Anunoby, Zion, Anthony Davis. So you're seeing there. DeMar DeRozan makes this one as well at 7,700, along with PJ Washington, Javon Small. That's right now, I guess, the optimal for my projections. Not getting Giannis in the build, not getting Wemby in the build. Still getting Giannis overall in 22% of my top projected lineups. But, it's not as heavy for me as it is seemingly for Stokastic. So always feel free. Like, whenever you see a really big difference between me and Stokastic, feel free to default to Stokastic. Like, I'm just telling you guys what I'm playing. I trust my data, and I'm willing to live and die by it. You don't have to. You have the freedom. You have free will. You can make choices. Anthony Davis, 34.8% expected ownership. I'm getting him at 21 right now. Anthony Davis, really no critiques of him. We'll see how much Cooper Flagg takes away. The guy who had spiked pretty meaningfully in the preseason, but also I think had some down games that, around like a 15 and 5 kind of day. That's not bad, but not really, dominating the offense. For Anthony Davis, he should dominate the offense. He did last year for the Mavs. But again, you have Flagg in there. You have some variables for just how the offense runs with having PJ Washington and Flagg as your primary ball handlers, and then D'Angelo Russell coming off the bench. I'm just not, I'm not sure I feel great about AD if he's going to be 35% owned. But that said, if I'm getting 21% of him, I feel like I got enough, and that's not something I would tweak too much. Cade Cunningham, player I'm also low on here, 9,900, 27.5% expected ownership. I'm getting him at 13.3. Cade, you have no Jaden Ivey still. Really, overall, losing some assets on the team for really where the Pistons are at this point. No Malik Beasley, and that might not be a great thing. So this year, I'm not penalizing guys where if they underperform, play, lower usage, lower assist rate, lower rebound rate when their teammates are off the court. In previous versions of my projections, and this was a change I made into last season that ended up working really well, I would kind of knock those guys' rates down. So it'd be like, oh, if you didn't play well when Jaden Ivey's out there, I would penalize Cade Cunningham for it. Now I'm not doing that, but he still does have less usage in court time without Jaden Ivey and without Malik Beasley. And I do think there's a connection there where the usage goes to more of a secondary ball handler as opposed to something that just kind of catches and shoots, because the assist rate also goes down for Cade Cunningham without Beasley. And Beasley's floating around out there, I guess, until his gambling stuff gets resolved. For Cade Cunningham, though, I don't see a reason to boost him further. That said, it is a soft matchup versus Chicago, a really high total. So I have no issue if you want to be with the field here on Cade Cunningham, even though I'm getting half right now. And it does feel like a vulnerable spot to me to be low on Cade in particular. Like Anthony Davis is fine, but Cade, he looked really good in the preseason, really efficient in the preseason, getting closer to the triple-double guy. I thought he would be closer when he first came out of college. I don't want to be this low on Cade, but the price tag I think is not great. And again, you have Zion right here. I have Zion at 48.4, Cade at 49. That is a meaningful difference between what I have and what Stokastic has, where they have Zion at 47 and Cade at 51.3. So I'm favoring the guys. I think it'll make me more unique, if nothing else. But we'll see. The Brunson ownership is certainly going to spike a lot as well, which could take some away from AD and from Cade. Zion here, I have him at 37% of my top 150, Fields at 27. He's another guy that's played better when you have no Brandon Ingram out there. Basically, the Pelicans, though, kind of replacing some high usage guys with other high usage guys. So for Zion, it might be more of a break even overall. I didn't juke the rates at all for the Pelicans, but I still would have Zion averaging, I think, about 1.6 fantasy points per minute. We'll see that on the other game by gain scream in a moment. Yeah, I have Zion at 1.51 fantasy points per minute today. Last year, he averaged 1.5. Again, you're bringing in Jordan Poole, which seems kind of break even with guys like Murray, guys like Ingram, and Trey Murphy, too, another high-usage guy who really did get up a lot of shots. I think he's going to hold probably something close to the 24% usage rate he had last year. For Zion, though, he's going to be point Zion again. The centers for the team, not the greatest right now with Looney not being able to play. Though not like Looney would be a stat hog or anything, but maybe it opens up some more rebounds for Zion. I'm intrigued by him. He's on the thumbnail today. I think he is one of the better plays in the slate. I think he and Jalen Brunson, to me, are two guys. I mean, you can see it in the ownership. These are the guys I'm building around to start. It's probably these two plus PJ Washington. And that seems different from the field, at least based on the previous run of data Stokastic had before Towns got rolled out. Giannis downgraded to probable. I mean, still probable, though, so it's odd, but should still be fine. Zion, Brunson, and Embiid is my core. Embiid, I just don't get very much of because he projected so poorly last year, and I feel like that ended up being mostly okay for me. But, Embiid has had some nice reports from, I think, from people who've seen him practicing, that he looks athletic and coordinated again, which, is relative to, I guess, Embiid. Devin Booker here, I've got him at 9.3% of my top 150, Fields at 7. He's another guy that played really well last year when you had Kevin Durant, when you also had Bradley Beal off the court. For Booker last year, get these numbers. He put up 1.23 fantasy points a minute, 34% usage, 31.5% assist rate. Not crazy numbers. We're not talking about him getting to the Wemby tier, not even the Jalen Brunson without Towns and Hart tier. But Booker still in a matchup. I think, everything flows through him. The team total as well for Phoenix, 116.5, not that bad against a Sacramento team that is also shorthanded with no Domantas Sabonis. So for Devin Booker, competitive game, all the usage in the world at this point because they don't have the secondary option. Jalen Green not playing today or not available yet. So that's something where it's all Booker, as many shots as he wants to take. And, guys like Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks is on the team now. Colin Gillespie, for as many minutes as he plays, he's another nice value. Those guys will get some shots up, but it's like Booker's every time he wants it, basically. Jaylen Brown, another guy benefiting from major injury. Big discrepancy for me versus Stokastic. 45.5 for me. Stokastic has him at 39.9. Going back to last year without Jason Tatum, and I didn't take off guys like Drew Holiday, some of the other Boston Celtics that are no longer on the team because we want to get enough of a sample size to feel confident about the rates. Jaylen Brown, 582 possessions, 35% usage, 32% assist rate, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. He's another guy at 8,900. I think playing him with Brunson, with Zion Williamson, you're getting similar upside to some of the stars. Obviously, probably not expecting 70 points, but I think you get to the 50s with some of these guys if they hit their ceilings, and that's not like a brave take or anything, but like high 50s would not be bad if you get three of them on the same lineup. I think that for Jaylen Brown, I'm surprised he's 1% owned. He has been a guy that's been really good whenever Tatum's been gone. That said, you are paying now full price tag for Jaylen Brown for this new role. A lot of times when Tatum was out last year or previous years, it's like Jaylen Brown at 7K, Derek White 6K to 7K. These guys are all 8K plus, and Jaylen Brown is just shy of 9,000. So you're not getting that historical discount, even though psychologically it still feels like a value to not have Tatum out there for as long as he's not out there, because apparently his Achilles is recovering at like a superhuman rate. So who knows? Who knows? Who knows what the good PEDs that he's on? It is Boston. Josh Giddey went to Big Poppy, and he's like, hey, what should I do? And Big Poppy, known beacon of fitness, should probably helped him out. All his PEDs. Josh Giddey, sorry, I'm just piling on Boston. Josh Giddey, 13.3% sim ownership for being the top with 50 fields, 6.8. No Kobe White for the team. Vucevic still there, but it is another depreciated lineup. Lonzo Ball gone. Kobe White's really the big one, though. So for Josh Giddey, 9,200 as well. Again, another guy I think is a very viable pivot to the expensive range. 6.8% ownership just feels like a lot of guys. Brunson's going to go up a lot because not having Towns in. But Booker, Jaylen Brown, Josh Giddey, these guys should all stay. You're 10% or less owned. Let's see what we got here besides Giddey. LaMelo Ball, Ja Morant. Let's keep it moving. Sorting by value now, and I'll try to go fast through the game by game because it's easy to talk too much. It's a new NBA season, and I do not have my speedy. I mean, I'm still talking fast, but there's so many things to talk about that even me talking fast, I feel like there's not enough time to get this done in under an hour. Jones, good value. What Jones? What Jones are we talking about? You gotta give me a first name if you're gonna give me the fucking most common name in America. Ryan, I appreciate you, but I need to know Jones, which one we are discussing. PJ Washington. Chicago, Trey Jones? So, okay, why not just say Trey Jones, first of all? But no, not a bad value. He's coming up a little bit, but he's not a top value. We'll see when we go to the game-by-game view how much I have, because Trey Jones, to me, not a guy. It's first off the brain for me. But it's unbelievable saying Jones, though. This Johnson guy, what do you think about him? PJ Washington. So, again, PJ Washington, your IQ test of the day on DraftKings. Yes, all the Mike Jones, all the jokes can come out. For PJ Washington, we got 9.5x value. I have him at 28.4 projections. Stokastic has him even higher at 28.9. Really, for NBA DFS, I know in the NFL, sometimes we'll see these plays and go, well, cool, now I can get some great game theory on the rest of the field, even though this year, frankly, that's not worked out super well with a lot of the value plays. PJ Washington, NBA DFS, just how it goes. You play PJ Washington, you let other people kind of figure out the wrong way, how that goes. They haven't projected for 97.5% ownership. I think it would be 90-ish more so. I just don't think there's still the entire field playing a guy. But as I said yesterday, NBA DFS, the sharpest out of all the sports, even though NFL keeps getting sharper year to year. There's so much volatility there, and there's just still a large amount of people that play off of just DVP / names they know. In NBA, it's mostly people working off of data, working off of Sims tools, working off of even optimizers. That still helps out enough compared to just fucking blindly hand-building shit. They'll know to play PJ Washington. So as long as he starts, if he doesn't start, downgrade him. I think then getting him into 50% of your lineups. But honestly, even if he didn't start, he's probably going to play enough minutes because Dallas's rotation, not the deepest in the world. George Washington. Play George Washington on the slate. Frankly, the more people that do instead of PJ, the better off. Trey Jemison. So here's the one where I gave him the winning minutes load because he was playing more minutes than Ariel Huckporty in the last preseason game for the Knicks, where the starters played a good amount of run. Towns was out. I think Jemison starts. He's not a great producer. I think he's at 0.74 fantasy points per minute. No, lower than that. .72 last year. Huck Porty was at .66. Neither guy a world beater, but it is the 5, and there is no Mitchell Robinson. So you're talking about potential minutes here where they can rebound, and no Josh Hart out there to steal the rebounds away. So Jemison, another 3K value here, nowhere near, to be totally transparent and so we're all aligned here. 8 fantasy point difference here, 30.7 projected minutes compared to 26, and that's me probably being more aggressive on it than I should be. These guys are nowhere near the world of the same play. PJ Washington is put him in every line to play. Jemison is flirt with it a little bit if he's starting, but don't jam him in everywhere because he's just not a great producer like that. Javon Small. So he's now the backup guard in Memphis. Ty Jerome hurt. Small, also a really good producer in college. Was surprised to be getting him as much as I did. Looked up the numbers on Sports Reference. He was a high usage guy, had over a 30% assist rate his last year of college. That's sort of good numbers in terms of how I would view a point guard who should be fantasy friendly. The fact that you do have no Ty Jerome just opens up a lot of minutes. John Morant is going to play, but he's not full health because it was still kind of a questionable situation where he'd be available for game 1. So Javon Small, I think I'm pretty comfortable with him being a value play that comes up. Obviously, it is, a large enough slate, 12 games, I believe. So for Javon Small, if you want to just roll the dice and play other 3K guys, you certainly can, but he does project the best one of them with 19.3 fantasy points. And for me, with rookies in the beginning part of the year, I just defer to Stokastic's projection. So for Javon Small, the number's the same for me, even though I did get less in my sim than Stokastic has as his ownership. 17% expected ownership for Javon Small. I've got him at 11. Gershon Yabusele, again, didn't give him a big minutes boost here. If you did give him 35 minutes like all the other Knicks starters, he would look a lot better. That said, I don't think it's a guarantee that he starts, and I actually don't think it's the most likely thing that he starts at center. Obviously, Philly did that last year. There's no guarantee that Mike Brown wants to do that on the Knicks. So for Yabusele, I'm curious to see what Stokastic gives him. I give him 26.5 minutes. That gives me about a 24 fantasy point projection, which is an increase, but not a massive increase. 25% ownership was expected before Towns got ruled out. I got him at 32. But Yabu, I do think, is a decent enough value, and if he starts, he's not PJ Washington again, but he would still be one of the better values on the slate. And I think a little bit more of a concrete play if Yabu starts than Jemison, than Javon Small, who's not starting and will be playing off the bench. Zaire Williams, another value here, 6x value, 3K salary is a little bit low for him. Definitely a pivot to guys like Javon Small, who should be popular on Stokastic. That said, we're talking 17% ownership for Javon Small, 12% for Zaire Williams. Zaire and Brooklyn's rotation, it's a little bit of a mess. I really don't know what to expect from Brooklyn besides Cam Thomas trying to gun whenever possible. Same thing for Michael Porter Jr. But we got a lot of new bodies in, a lot of rookies too. I'm not sure what Zaire's role is at this point with all that changeover. But, Stokastic has it for 20.9 minutes, so decent value. What do I think about Huck Porty? I don't feel much better about Jemison. Whoever starts at center is the one you should want, whether it is Jemison, whether it's Huck Porty, whether it is, obviously if it's Yabu, then especially. But I would think, for how I view it is if Jemison were highly owned, Huck Porty becomes more interesting because they're probably sharing minutes. And if Huck Porty plays well or Jemison plays poorly, there's an inverse kind of correlation there. But, if you flip that and Huck Porty's starting, I'd feel the same way, and he were going to get a bunch of ownership. I'd feel the same way and go now Jemison comes. Kind of interesting play, but Huck Porty's the one you expect to succeed. Am I getting... Is this your new bit, Spencer? I am not getting shit-faced today. No, it's a Wednesday. It's not my time. Any love for Clayton? He's coming up in some of my top lineups. Yeah, he actually projects fairly well for me. Not a great enough value to be up top here, but he's somewhere... Oh, you know what? It's because he's not on the screen. Hold on. Clayton would be one of my top values, but I think because he is 3K, he's not on the sheet because I can only import so many players onto the one that I use on screen. I've got Walter Clayton for 20.9 fantasy points today, which again is building off of Stokastic's projections. They have him at 19.4, and he does project for 34% ownership. So Walter Clayton, not a sneaky play on the slate, but he does look like one of the better 3K values. So good call out on that because I didn't catch everything, unfortunately. It's tough the first week or so of NBA data. Honestly, even more than that first couple weeks. But for day one, especially, it's just getting guys aligned because you have so many rookies that are getting projected for some amount of minutes that just don't pop up naturally. But he would be on this list. Let's see. There you go. No new bit, but just took my shirt off. There we go. Now we're back to the old bit. Stick with the bid I know. That's all I can ever ask. OG Anunoby, 40% sim ownership for me. My top 150 Fields at 5. Again, this is with the reflection of Towns being out, which is not yet in Stokastic's data. At this point for me, I think that... So Stefan Bondi here, New York Post reporter, which I feel like he's not the most credible one in the world, saying he's hearing Towns will play despite being doubtful. Well, look, if he plays, throw all the Knicks stuff out the window. Towns back to a great play because he'll be playing center. If you're playing the 4, it wouldn't look as good. But if he plays, then great. If he's not in, you now know how to prepare for it. So if Towns plays, Brunson comes down, it's still not a bad play. To me, I wouldn't play Bridges. I wouldn't play Anunoby at that point. I also wouldn't play Jemison. I really wouldn't play Yabu much. And I certainly wouldn't play Huck Porty. But yeah, fuck it, we'll find out closer to game time. The Knicks game tips off when? I think it should be a 7 o'clock, right? Yeah, 7 o'clock tip for the Knicks, so maybe some mind games with Cleveland. Who fucking knows? It is a national game too, right? So I guess they can't fuck around too much with that. There we go. Yeah, no fuckery like the NBA. That is unbelievable. Anyway, OG Anunoby. So look, if Towns plays, knock this down. If Towns doesn't play, Anunoby looks like a top value to me. Colin Gillespie, we should be good in this situation no matter what. There's guard minutes to go around. Phoenix has gotten rid of Tyus Jones. He's on Orlando now. Monty Morris also, I don't know if he went anywhere else, but I don't believe he's on the roster anymore. Yeah, he last played for the Suns. He's a free agent still. So they're down some guards. Colin Gillespie's been a pretty good producer, around 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute. So for Colin Gillespie, looking like a better value here with some of these guys going away as values potentially, or at least getting a little bit less good for guys like Yabusele, Trey Jemison, assuming Towns plays. Gillespie's going to look like a better value. Projection pretty close to what I have for Walter Clayton. So those guys, I think your sort of obvious guard values on the day. Still, again, not a tier anywhere close to PJ Washington. Dominic Barlow should be getting some backup big minutes for Philadelphia. Another 3K minimum guy. Nothing too sexy here, but 1% ownership. So it's a value. He's a low-owned value play that nobody's going to really be on. Jalen Brunson, his number's going to go down if Towns plays. Diabate at 4,500. Jock Landale 4K getting the backup big minutes for Memphis because there's no Brandon Clark, no Tyus Edey, and he's 4K. Really the big thing here is you kind of guess, especially now that we take Cat back into the equation, I guess. PJ Washington is just such a clear top value here. He should be your lead primary ball handler alongside Cooper Flagg. You're on the risk that I guess maybe he loses some minutes to an actual ball handler like Russell. But, it should still be enough time out there for PJ Washington, whether he's playing this kind of nominal point guard role or if he's just out there doing what he normally does, blocking some shots, chucking some threes, whatever. PJ Washington, the best play on the slate, is a value, and that's sort of what it is. We're going to go game-by-game view here. Getting Knicks sit-start PTSD. It's a different situation now. It is a different coach. It is something, too, where we're not in a Thibodeau world. So maybe Towns, if he plays, he doesn't get all the run that he would, whereas if he were healthy enough to play, Tibbs would just still play him 38 minutes. And they do have, again, two centers they could go to, or shitty centers for sure with Huck Porty and Jemison, but they are centers. We're going to go game by game here. I'm going to try to make better time on this and try to skim past the stuff that's not important. Before I do that, though, guys, please do show some love. Trying to get 100 likes on every video because I think it's going to help me fight the YouTube algorithm a little bit better. And you guys got me there yesterday, so let's do it again. Hit the like button, subscribe, and really, this is a show by the people for the people. Even though I've done content in this vein for almost 7 years now, actually more than 7 years now, I'm just somebody gambling like you guys do. I play the 20 maxes, put a few entries in the big tournaments today. Probably spending a little bit too much on the $5 100K up top tournament, but it's a hill, it's a mountain we all try to climb together, I think, in NBA DFS. And I just do the best I can to show you guys my data, my information, how I prepare myself, and I hope it adds value to your process. But please, if you want to be a part of it every day here, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, hit the like button, subscribe, it goes a long way, and join the channel as well. Number one, you get access to the Discord, great place to be. It supports the show. If you also want access to the data here, the stuff I show you on screen, minus the stochastic parts, You can get that for yourself. I update projections all night long because I am updating my own lineups basically every time games lock if anything changes. But join the channel here, the Squirt Squad tiers, and shout out to you guys that did join yesterday or upgrade yesterday. Join the projections tiers. The Squirt Squad tier gets you the data you see on the screen right now. If you want exportable projections, the higher dollar tier will get you on there. But it does support the show directly, and I'm trying to do it all by myself like a big boy. I'm trying to do this without sponsors this year. My affiliate stuff with Stokastic aside. So please do join the channel and use my data. I put a lot of love to it, and if nothing else, I'm not that far off the norm, and it'll make you more unique in tournaments. So check it out. All right, Cleveland, 115.3 implied. New York, 111.8 implied. Not a lot of ownership here. Does feel like, especially when Towns was going to potentially be out, or if we were to assume he were out, you'll get a lot of Knicks. You're not going to get much in the way of Cleveland. Just feels like if you're playing a game environment, trying to get the other side a little bit more, especially for Cleveland when you have no Darius Garland out there. I think Donovan Mitchell, a decent play if you are trying to get a counterpoint for Knicks ownership that you'll have in a lineup. And that's one way to get unique on an NBA slate. You see a lot of ownership coming, and it's same thing for NFL too. See a lot of ownership coming for a player, but there isn't a stack, a bring back kind of built around it. You do that, kind of bump the lineups that have Cat or Brunson, whatever ends up being the case tonight. You bump up Mitchell in those lineups, bump up Mobley in those lineups, try to look for ones that have those two guys together. I guess Jared Allen, same thing, though it's a much lesser extent. That'll allow you to get these guys in some situation because projection-wise, you're not going to get there. And I've got Mitchell for 43.7. That's with the boost from no Garland being out there. I guess no Max Strus as well, even though that doesn't matter very much. Evan Mobley, same thing. They're just not priced well enough to get there projection-wise. New York, we've talked about enough already. If Cat's in, he looks like the best play here and would be in almost every lineup for me. If he's out, Jalen Brunson looks great. And I know he looks much better than I would have thought. Yabu looks good enough. I do question him being a rock-solid play, though, if Towns is in, because I do think the role is maybe not 26.5 minutes, maybe closer to 20, 22. But I think for the Knicks right now, too much in flux. If Towns is in, though, I'm playing him, and I'll just deal with the risk of it, I guess. Brooklyn, a team that should mostly be off the radar. That said, Cam Thomas could spike a big day here. Bringing in Michael Porter, not great for Cam Thomas getting the run of the castle. There's also a lot of new names in here. Guys like Igor Demine, who is kind of a has the ball in his hands guy. I would compare him to young Josh Giddey. I would hope a better shooter. We'll see how that goes. But, it's not clear runway to Cam Thomas getting up every shot like he would like. At 7,600, he is kind of priced for that outcome. But, in a tournament, he's got the upside to maybe win you something. So 11% is what I got in the top 150, fields at 10. Certainly for Cam Thomas, not an exciting play, but in a 150 set, I think he gets into some lineups. Michael Porter, a little bit less so at 6,700. His role could be a lot better. He might do more. It seems like, to me, he's mostly in the podcast P stage of his career. And not as good of a podcast as Paul George. And I don't think Paul George is a great podcaster either. So now we're going down the food chain. That said, completely willing to say dumb shit in the podcast is Michael Porter Jr. And also with Dwight Howard really multiplying their powers. Porter Jr., though, could have a whole new role here. We are working off of Denver projections, so I'll highlight him. He's not coming up for me a ton, only 5% fields at 3. But Porter Jr., you do whatever the fuck he wants with the team besides possessions that Cam Thomas takes away. Nick Claxton coming up 15% from you, fields at 10. I got a decent projection on him at 29.5. He's got $5,500 salary, so not something I'm super stoked about. Really don't want much nets, but the matchup against Charlotte is pretty good. Last with this team, horrible defensively, and I don't see how bringing on guys like Con Knipple help out that much. Charlotte, decent total on their side. Honestly, Nets might be playing a little bit faster this year because the pace does not look too great based on last year's data, but these totals are pretty solid for both teams, especially Charlotte here with 116.8. That said, everybody's healthy here. You are introducing another fairly high usage player in Con Knipple, or at least, guy's going to get some shots up and should be, schemed plays to get himself some open looks from three. He's not going to, dribble and ISO. I don't expect, at least at this stage of the game. You're adding in Colin Sexton too. It mucks things up enough here. Trey Mann coming back in. He was super productive last year. The stats just don't look as good right now for LaMelo. That said, 9,500. He's got a ceiling and he'll be unplayed at 2.8% ownership. Miles Bridges, when LaMelo Ball is in, I don't really like so much. 7,800, I feel like you're paying the price tag for a lot of the big games he had last year. When LaMelo was out, when Brandon Miller was out. That's when you want Miles Bridges, not when he's everybody there, I don't think. Miles Bridges lost weight like Zion. Well, he's a piece of shit. I can't come up with a joke besides declaring that. Hot Mom. I didn't know you had a hot mom. I did not see that go viral. Igor Demine is a hockey player. That is a real hockey player-ass name. I also keep wanting to call him Denim in my mind. It's not Denim, it's Demine. So going to have to take some getting used to that. Ryan Kalkbrenner was getting some pretty big minutes at center as well, but that was in the preseason. Diabate should still be in the mix and probably starting. Mason Plumlee could take more minutes away from Kalkbrenner, but he was out there with starting groups. He was fairly productive, not even, I would say, to like a Walker Kessler tier, but I would say like a vibe that's adjacent to it. Kalkbrenner as a value, tough to play a lot of, but got him a little bit here. Fields at 14% ownership. I got 7. Miami with no Tyler Hero. They are priced more than enough. Norman Powell carrying a price tag like his Clippers days, but now he's got different guys to compete for volume with. I kept Norman Powell's rates, but I did boost the Miami Heat guys to as much as they get for Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler being off the court last year. Nobody grades out super well. It's a lot of guys that do a little bit of everything, and for my projections, that makes it harder for guys to pop up meaningfully. So Bam at 8,400, I think he's got the ceiling to do something meaningful, but still only got him at 3% of my top 150. Wiggins played pretty well for the Heat, but now you're bringing in Norman Powell, who's going to be a similar wing scorer. I would love that for him. I got 3%, Fields at 3.5. Davion Mitchell gets a lot more assists when the lead ball handlers like Hero and Butler. I guess he was never with Butler, but guys like Hero off the court. For Davion Mitchell, still not a guy I really want to make a big stand for here when you have so many guys available for Miami who take meaningful possessions away. So for Miami here, not a great total either. Orlando should be, frankly, even better defensively. I don't think Miami is one of the hills to die on. Bam would be the one, though, like for a tournament. If you were to tell me he made a winning lineup, his projection's close enough to like a real ceiling that it wouldn't shock me. Orlando, 111.5 on their side. You're bringing in Desmond Bane here. Yeah, I don't think on this slate you need to do Davion Mitchell, but if he came up for me, I'm not going to like rule him out or anything. Because the price tag might just make a lineup work / positionality. That's always how it goes. Okay, we got Orlando here. So bringing in Desmond Bane, I think just not great for the overall equation, especially for Paolo and Franz Wagner, who are sort of dependent on having such a massive share of the offense, both guys over 30% usage. Suggs, assuming he plays, he also got up a lot of shots last year when he was healthy, 27.5% usage. So Bane just kind of waters it down, and unless Orlando starts producing at a much higher rate, and there's no reason to believe they would with only a 111.5 implied total, I just don't see how you played a lot of Orlando. Like Paolo Banchero, kind of similar to Bam, has that ceiling. And 8,200 feels cheap for him if he does hit that ceiling. But if you're expecting the production to get chopped up, as you should, when they trade for Bane, who's got a big deal, Franz and Paolo, stalwarts of this new version of the Magic, the usage is going to get really chopped up between these guys, and they got to get creative and staggering minutes and stuff, and I'm not sure we can really make that judgment based on game one, so I don't see how you play a lot of Magic. Toronto, similar thing here. Nice total at 115.8, but you're bringing in Brandon Ingram alongside Quickly, alongside Barrett, alongside Barnes, alongside Pirtle. That's a mess. These guys are all priced pretty expensively as well for this situation. So I think for Toronto, I like them as a team more than the markets do. I think it's interesting that, they are so loaded in terms of guys that are pretty high usage and fairly efficient scorers. I mean, the true shooting for none of these guys. Actually, you know what? These guys might all be a little bit kind of bullshit players. They're all under average true shooting, but again, the usage for them, you got 4 guys above 25%. That's not usually how these rotations work, even for teams like Boston, and where you have some depth and a lot of guys. You have your Drew Holiday deferring, you have your Derek White deferring, but then when you get Jason Tatum out, when you get Jaylen Brown out, those guys return to like what their usage would be in a situation. For Toronto, it's just like the math doesn't math here. So nice total. I think they'll be better than people think, but for fantasy, I don't think they're the spot to play today. Unless somebody really consolidates production in a way I don't foresee. Atlanta, similar thing here. Kristaps Porzingis news came out that he had a heart issue, I think was an illness that was affecting his heart. So that was why he was all fucked up last year. If he stood up, his heart rate would spike to like, what your peak workout levels would be. So I guess they got that fixed. I don't know. Either way, you're introducing a guy into the lineup here with guys that are priced really aggressively. Trae Young, a dude I never really got last year. Not getting him today, only 1%. Porzingis, I probably have too much of him at 10%, but the field's at 16. So whatever, but you have Jalen Johnson on the team. He deserves usage. Trae Young's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. The prices just don't really math to me here. And maybe that's what makes them winning for a tournament, but projection wise, I want to play well-projected plays on the first slate of the year. I don't need to outthink myself here. Atlanta's total's pretty nuts though, 121.3. So, there's always merits if you want to go real contrarian. But, like I'm putting in 50 entries into the 150 max today because, like, that's the bankroll I'm comfortable with fucking around with on a daily basis for these slates. I'm not going to go and boost guys that just don't project well. To me, that's not the right way to play, but your personal preference may vary on that. Because tournament-wise, high total, you just attack that game, maybe get something right. Philadelphia, 112.3 implied points. Again, not a lot of ownership for me here compared to the field. Joel Embiid will be owned 21.8%, it looks like. I was low projection-wise for him last year. I'm not going to kind of juke things at this point because we do have VJ Edgecombe coming in. We have Quentin Grimes, who established some sort of opportunity for himself last year. Maxey back in as well, playing a ton of minutes, likely like he did all of last year. For Maxey at 4%, kind of interesting play when you see Embiid being a decent amount owned. And reports have been locally in the Philadelphia area that people who've seen Embiid at practice, apparently he looks athletic and looks a little bit more like himself. He had a real big athletic piece talking about all the criticism he's heard and how he really wants to kind of put it back in people's face a little bit and make this team win and sort of still be the driver of things. If you want to buy into the narrative for Embiid, you can. Going against Boston, it should be a little resistance at this point because the center rotation for them is mostly dog shit. I don't think Embiid's a bad play, but I don't want to be zero on him, but he doesn't project well enough for me him to be one of my guys. And if Towns is back in too, like I personally would greatly prefer Towns. But if you want to play Embiid again, it's personal choice. Don't trust the process, but I will. There you go. I mean, look, I think for Embiid, the process has worked out well, and I hope for him the health process, like the league's better with him in it, even though I think he's kind of an annoying player to watch. And to me, an annoying player to roster in DFS every year besides the MVP year. But, like this matchup for him where you have Keita, Luka Garza expect to get minutes at center, Chris Boucher, like this is an Embiid. If he's got the old shit, he should gobble these guys up. No Paul George too, so that helps out a little bit. And he did average last year for what it's worth, about 1.35, I believe, fantasy points without Paul George. So a pretty good number, just not, it wasn't an MVP Embiid last year or anything close to it. Embiid's the kind of guy that plays those those potty games. So I know it says petty. I just want to misinterpret it over and over again. I mean, he likes his teammates apparently. Like apparently he's one of his best friends in the world is Tyrese Maxey. So I don't know. But I think him beating up, more so to me, him beating up on a Boston team, and I care so little about defensive matchups, but the center rotation is like, Horford always kind of had Embiid's number, less so as an old guy. But these guys, I don't know. Boston should be an abomination in terms of defending bigs this year. For Boston side, decent total at 116.8 as well. Philadelphia was not a great defense last year. We'll see how they come together this season. But Jaylen Brown, again, pretty big rejection discrepancy for me. I've got him at 45.5. Stokastic has him for 39.9. I will have more Jaylen Brown than they do. 11% of my top 150 has him. Fields at 1. Derek White, I still have better projected as well, about 3.2 fantasy points higher. That said, he only came up 3.3% for me in my top 150. The Fields at 2.2. Peyton Pritchard, a little bit expensive at 6,900. He's another guy that benefits just as much from having less bodies out there, more minutes to go around for Jason Tatum. But I think that for Peyton Pritchard, getting Simons in really fucks this up a little bit. Simons, I kept his rates flat from what he did in Portland last year. I don't know how the usage works out here. It might be worse for Jaylen Brown and Derek White than I'm giving projection to. I think that's kind of reflected here that Stokastic has Simons 3 points and change higher, and I've got Pritchard, White, Jaylen Brown higher. So I think there's some assumptions of production flowing that for me that are not the same for Stokastic. So again, feel free to default to them. Keita, not a bad value, but he's 5K, so he's not really a value in your PJ Washington level. But starting center potentially for him. A lot of guys can play center minutes. That would worry me about Keita, but he's producing pretty well in the past, and I've got him for 1.14 fantasy points a minute, when accounting for his per 100 possession data and all that. Detroit, 119.5 implied. Chicago, 117 implied. We're going to get to the Sims, guys, but I do like to do the game-by-game view. How many fucking games? I feel like I'm making okay time on this. We've got, including this one, 7 games left, right? So let me speed it up. I'll talk about the guys that are relevant. Cade Cunningham, 27.5% field ownership. We'll see how the Towns being back in stuff moves things around. But it's a nice high total for Detroit. Chicago's defense, one of the worst last year. They play with decent pace, basically flat 99.8, 99.6 paces here. Cade should be in a really good spot. He looked awesome in the preseason, so I really don't have an issue playing Cade, even though I've got half the field right now. Jalen Duren, 4% for me. Fields at 2.3, but nobody looks like a must play for Detroit besides Cade. Chicago on their side, with no Kobe White, I really thought Josh Giddey would look a little bit better. He's putting up triple doubles like crazy last year when he kind of had the run of the entire offense. Buzelis in the preseason took a little bit more work away, so that might not be great for Josh Giddey. But I still want to get some tournament Josh Giddey here. I got 13.3% of my top 150. Fields 6.8. Also got a little more Buzelis. Vucevic at 8,800. I don't know how you play. His usage has been bad for like a year and change. He had a little bit of a spike one game in the preseason. The rest of them was like a non-factor in the offense. Vucevic, for me, not really a guy I want to play at. I mean, really, at many salaries, but 8,800 especially. New Orleans, 116.3 here. Again, Zion on the thumbnail. He looks like a pretty chalky play, 27% ownership. I still got him in 37% of my lineups. 48.4 is my projection. Stokastic has him at 47. Everybody else here, I wouldn't play. Jordan Poole's price tag, I don't get at 7,800. That's like his price for when he was killing it for the Wizards, relatively. Getting up a lot of shots. I don't want this new team here, even though the total's not bad, and Memphis does play with a good amount of pace. Trey Murphy at 7,500, not really the play for me. Kind of Zion or bust here. Saddiq Bey back in the league, more power to him. I got him in 2% of my lineups. The field's at 7.7 for him. I don't really know why. Memphis, 120.3. No Ty Jerome here. Does mean Ja Morant should have maybe a few more minutes tacked on to himself, but he's 9,400. Still a great player overall with 1.3 fantasy points per minute last year. I'd have him at 1.4, accounting for the matchup and team total and who's available for Memphis today. Do you have no Scottie Pippen as well? Desmond Bane gone, so there are some key changes here. That said, you're bringing in some different guys. Javon Small, we'll see what he does, but does grade out to be a decent usage and assist rate guy. Hope maybe he can do a Ty Jerome impression coming off the bench. It's not like a real open runway of usage for Ja Morant with Jaren Jackson also in. Aldama. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope shot a lot in the preseason. I don't think that holds, but there are other guys that could shoot, so I don't think Ja Morant looks like a killer play. Jock Landale at 4K, decent value, should be the backup big for Memphis / I guess he might start, but only 21-minute projection from Stokastic. So if he starts, maybe bump that up a little bit more and he'll look like an even better value. Washington, 109 implied points. I got nothing here. Keyshawn George, a guy to watch, though, made a big leap in the preseason. He also spiked a lot last year. But you have CJ McCollum in, Chris Middleton in, Bub Carrington in. You have like the entire rotation good to go. Besides Bilal Coulibaly, I don't really need to take the leap on Keyshawn George on this particular slate. Milwaukee, we talked up top about my Giannis differential compared to what Stokastic has. They got him at 51% ownership. I'm only getting him at 16 of my top 150. I just think they're giving him a bigger boost than I am relative to the new guys coming in from Milwaukee. Guys like Kevin Porter Jr., guys like Bobby Portis had meaningful usage last year. Kyle Kuzma, not so much, but it's a new year for him. Who knows? And AJ Green got big paid. I feel like you got to get him more shots. How much you're giving him money. So Giannis, your top projected guide for me for Stokastic, they just have him a lot higher than I do. Embiid's so cheap, or his minutes being capped. I don't think he's so cheap, but his minutes, there's no reports of them being capped, but it certainly is not an improbability that would happen. There's not been anything they've said, like he'll be on restricted minutes, at least that I've seen. Clippers, 117.8. You got to keep in mind, though, like he's not MVP Embiid. He was only playing at like what were the numbers? Only playing at, and it's still not a bad number, but a 1.38 fantasy point per minute pace last year, which, like for compared to a Giannis, you're talking about 0.3 less. For Jokic, you're talking about like 0.4, 0.5 less. I just think the expectations for Embiid, even if he's back to normal, like I kind of want to see it myself. And if the field's going to play him at like 25, 30%, I'd rather let them show and prove it to me personally, but I get it. Being with the field though, 25%, 30, you're good. Clippers, 117.8 implied points here. Utah, 108.3. Nothing coming up for me here. Just a little bit of tournament. James Harden, a little bit of tournament. Kawhi Leonard. Sure, the aspiration money will be great for him. But, well, I guess he got his share of it. He got whatever money, and now he's getting no more. But either way, the aspiration money does not give you fantasy points here. At 8,100, he doesn't look like that great of a play. They're also introducing Bradley Beal, John Collins in. Collins was a monster in Utah. People don't realize that. 62.8% true shooting for a guy that's a big and chucks up some threes. Really impressive. That might hurt things more than you realize. And also having Chris Paul out there, he will run point a good amount, take some opportunity away for these guys who do ISO a ton for Harden and Kawhi. Let's see how the Clippers look, because fantasy-wise, I just don't see how there's a lot you want to play here. Utah, you've got a lot of guys in. You lose your Jordan Clarksons and your Colin Sextons, who were starting for last year, and obviously moved on. Well, at least one of them did midseason. For Lauri Markkanen, at this point, I don't really want to play him either at 6,800, but he's probably the guy that's most playable. Walker Kessler started adding some threes to his repertoire. He's 6,600. I presume the price tag works for some lineups because I got him at 7%. Keontae George at 10. And Walter Clayton, who I mentioned before. Just want to make sure I give you guys a number on him because he's not on this screen, and I have no way to do that. Walter Clayton, I got in my sim 36%, and the field's expected to be at 35. So Walter Clayton, an important play on the slate as a value. There are a lot of point guards. I don't know that I love that. But I guess Collier's out, so maybe that clears the runway for Clayton enough. If Clayton starts, I'd feel a lot better about it, but I would assume it's Keontae George starting. But one to watch for sure, I guess, relative to a game starting pretty late on the slate. San Antonio, 110.8 implied. Dallas, 113.3 implied. Wembanyama, again, another top option here theoretically. Much less so than Giannis. I really don't want to play either relative to their the ownership and the projection. But Wemby getting 14%, Giannis 16% for me. That feels about right. Wemby's probably make another leap this year, but I think it's a slate where you can get away without paying for the top options. We'll see, but Giannis seems really highly owned. Maybe that flattens out a little bit more and you get like, instead of 50% and 10% Giannis versus Wemby, maybe get more like 40 and 20. I think it's not a crazy impossibility because people love playing Wembanyama. Dylan Harper not coming up very much. He was a monster in college. They have a lot of guys that like to get shots up with Devin Vassell. Stephon Castle does a little bit more when the other guards / other usage guys besides Wemby aren't available. And you have Sohan out. Chris Paul's gone. So Castle might shoot some more here, but I think the play is mostly Wemby. Champagne came in a little bit for me at 4,300. Not particularly fun plays. Anthony Davis, 35% expected field ownership. I got him at 21, so not fading him in a major way, but still under the field enough to note. Cooper Flagg, projection-wise, doesn't seem to work for me. Anthony Davis dominated the ball pretty meaningfully. Flagg, though, should be playing point guard, so should PJ Washington. So those guys matter relatively here, especially if you're not playing Anthony Davis. Maybe you get some Cooper Flagg in those lineups. Russell not coming up. 6,400, I know you play him if he's going to come off the bench, and that should be the expectation here. Starters should be AD, Flagg, Lively, Klay Thompson, and PJ Washington. Najee Marshall, I suppose, always a threat to play more as well if they want to go with a different kind of big man point guard situation. But PJ Washington, you just shouldn't fade him on the slate. 3K salary. Fields expected to own him at 97.5%. It probably won't be that high because the data for a sim doesn't account for how much humans either fuck up / don't use the math. But Washington should be in the majority of your lineups, especially assuming that he starts. If he doesn't start, I could see downgrading his ownership substantially, but he should start. Sacramento, no Domantas Sabonis, so a 112.5 implied total going against Phoenix. Both teams should be different than last year. Neither should be good, though. Nothing coming up for Sacramento besides DeMar DeRozan. 5% of my top 150 has him. Fields at 1. But a lot of dudes coming in here. Schroeder kind of impacts all of the guys. Russell Westbrook, for as much as he'll play, he's going to impact all the guys, taking away some usage, some rebounding, some assists. Sacramento, to me, I think the price tag's another team where it's just not right for game one. Phoenix, 116.5 implied. Devin Booker, 9% play for me. My second highest on the team. I think he's an interesting tournament option here. Sacramento should be competitive enough. Again, both teams do kind of stink. So maybe there's a world where like a Booker, DeMar DeRozan combo hits, and that's the thing that makes it unique in a lineup where you play, chalk upside around that. Colin Gillespie as a value at 3,800 stands out. Stokastic had a guy named Kobe Brea coming up a little bit, but I don't think that's the case anymore. So he's come down. Gillespie really the one value play here. Grayson Allen at 5,900, playable, but not a particularly exciting play when you have Booker available as an option. And last game on the slate here, we will go to the Sims, and of course I will be also on Stokastic later on today for Live Before Lock, 6 o'clock time for that one. Deeper dive as well as before that with Josh Engelman and DK DFS, so if you want to get some NBA content starting in the 5 o'clock hour, watch that. But of course I go live here 2 p.m. Every day, at least for now, but I think I like this time. I like this time so far. Minnesota 112.5 implied, Portland 108.5. Anthony Edwards, another one of these low-owned guys that has a ceiling to win a tournament. That said, versus Portland is at the spot at 9K salary. I'm not sure about that. None of these guys coming up a lot for me. Randall not coming up at all. Edwards at 5%. You lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the team. Doesn't really help out that much how the projections look relative to these salaries. And Portland on their side, you've got no Scoot. You've got a new contract for Shaedon Sharpe. You also have Drew Holiday added in. Donovan Clingan seems like the most important play to me at 10% ownership. Top 150 for me. Fields at 3%. Nothing else here coming up a bunch, but Shaedon Sharpe at 7,900, Denny Avi at 8,500. Those guys have a ceiling. I just wonder how much Drew Holiday starts to get shots up a little bit more now that he's not on a serious team. If he becomes a more usage dominant player at 6,200, maybe he's playable, but again, another team here, I don't think you have to make the jump on this slate. Let's see what they do with a lot of guys that like to get shots up on the team, and a few guys like Drew Holiday who have not gotten shots up recently, but may love to do it for a team where he's playing for probably his next NBA team. All right, Sims time here, guys. We got 7 minutes left for. I don't like doing a video over an hour, but let's go over to Stokastic, run a sim here. You've seen what my data looks like in a sim. And did they update projections at all? Let me just refresh to make sure. All right, so they have not updated the Knicks stuff away from Towns being in. So I guess you'll see a version here of the data with Towns being in, which I guess seems like the most likely outcome. But again, guys, I will ask one more time. Number one, Stokastic, again, a great partner for me. They help me keep doing what I'm doing here on the Splash Play channels. So 15% off, link down below, promo code SPLASH. It does support the show directly. They also have their deal going on right now. If you want the data for just today, it's $1, and then it renews at full price tomorrow. You can also just use the promo code SPLASH to get 15% off in perpetuity, which is a pretty sweet deal. It's, I think, one of the better deals they have because it's not just your first month. It ends up being every month. So promo code SPLASH, link down below to use that and get all the cheap stuff, the expensive stuff, your data, your sims, your lineup generator. It's all 15% off the promo code SPLASH and does support the show. Let's go 25% to first here. And again, if you want my data here, my projections, join down below. First of all, you can just join for $5. It supports the show, gets you access to the Discord. But if you want my projections, join the Squirt Squad tiers. You can get the data sheet that I show you with all the stats. That's the $25 tier. If you want my projections, exportable for your optimizers or your sim stuff, including Stokastic Sims, you can actually just upload the data directly into an Excel, rather the file they give you and whatever. It's really easy to do, even though I'm stumbling and muttering over it. So please join the channel here. And again, the projections in particular, shout out to you guys that did join that. But this year, if you want to get into my data, I do them Monday to Friday, not weekends unless I'm doing a show. So this Saturday, I'll probably do them. That's a good way to support the channel here and allow me to not have to rely on doing shows at times that are not my ideal. I love some of the partners I've worked with, but I want to do shows the time that makes sense for my life, you know? All right, let's see what we got here. Trey Jones. People asked about Trey Jones earlier. Now he's coming up in these lineups. Your top ROI lineups, Trey Jones, Walter Clayton, so two values up top. PJ Washington, another value here. Zion Williamson makes it. Porzingis makes it. Javon Small, another value. Anthony Davis, Victor Wembanyama. So you're spending up on one very expensive guy, two pretty expensive guys with Zion, Anthony Davis. Porzingis, pretty pricey as well. That's your number one ROI lineup right now. Again, assuming that Towns is in. Number two, Javon Small makes it again. Bryce Sensabaugh makes it. It's a little bit tough with Ace Bailey in, but sure. PJ Washington again. Giannis again. Or not Giannis again. Giannis makes this one instead of Wemby. Dominic Barlow makes this one as your backup big. Cade Cunningham, another lower-owned pay-up option, I guess, or still owned enough, but slightly lower owned than some other options like Giannis. Anthony Davis makes this one too. Walker Kessler makes this one. And again, Walker Kessler did show some growth in the preseason to his game, and he's always been a potential double-double with some upside for blocks and all that. Number three is Trey Jones. Bryce Sensabaugh makes it again. PJ Washington makes it again. That one shouldn't be a surprise. Zion makes it again. Walker Kessler makes it again. Javon Small again. Giannis again. Anthony Davis again. Pretty common underlying themes for these top liners for Stokastic right now. Number four, Trey Jones. Cam Thomas makes it. PJ Washington. Zion Williamson. Dominic Barlow again. Sensabaugh again. Giannis again. Embiid makes his first of the top five. And the number five ROI lineup, according to Stokastic, here is Javon Small, Dyson Daniels. That doesn't feel like a Dyson Daniels slate. I guess defensively, you can always put up enough of an upside. Gershon Yabusele, Anthony Davis, and this is also, again, assuming Cat's in, so no boost there. Joel Embiid, Trey Jones, PJ Washington yet again, and Wembanyama. Highest ROI players on the slate: Dominic Barlow at 3K at 21% ROI. Javon Small at 3K, 21% ROI. So two backups, but two guys that seem guaranteed a certain amount of minutes because they should be the primary backups. Backup big for Philadelphia, Barlow. Backup little guy for Memphis, and Javon Small. Trey Jones, your number 3 ROI guy at 6%. So 4K salary, enough to make him be very credible in the Stokastic top 150. Kristaps Porzingis, he is a slightly negative number, but your number 4 ROI guy. And Derek Queen at number 5, 3,800. He is like a guy who can put up a double-double, can score a lot of points. But you have Zion in, you have Murphy in, you have Jordan Poole in. I don't know about Derek Queen being a guy I want to prioritize day one. With no uniques on these lineups, we're getting 100% PJ Washington, Fields at 96. So in the top 150 for Stokastic, get PJ Washington and everyone. Again, it really feels like one of those things. Don't try to be too smart. Try to fade him. But, certainly if you're willing to lose the money, playing half your lineups with him, do the other half, see what happens. Hope that he gets injured, I guess, if you want to play DFS that way. But normally for NBA DFS, the rule of thumb would be you have a guy who should be a starter here, multi-position eligibility as well with small forward, power forward, so you can get him in to 4 different spots in your lineup between those 2 spots, the forward spot, the utility spot. You should just play him, but weird things can happen. That is how DFS goes. Walter Clayton in 61% of these lineups, Fields at 36. Again, 3K salary. Feel a lot better about that if he starts. Not sure that he does. He and Small and Barlow, all 3K backups. Clayton seems like the most appealing one, though. Trey Jones, 55% exposure expected. Fields at 21. So Stokastic's top 150, you're getting almost 3x what the Fields expected to get. And still going to be a fairly chalky play, though, relative to the values. Anthony Davis, 54% of the top 150 has him. He's at 33% expected ownership. And Giannis in 51, despite the ownership coming up to 43%. So Giannis, the preferred pay-up option for Stokastic data. Highest leverage plays, the aforementioned Javon Small, Trey Jones. Kristaps Porzingis, 25% more in the field. Really big stand in favor of him. I don't love that, man. He really was a fucking catastrophe with his whatever heart issues, the POTS issues, and sorry to speak ill of all you guys that have the POTS problems that Porzingis had. I don't know that I want to play him 41% on night 1, to be totally honest, but apparently it's better. That would spook me a little bit, and I'm not really the guy to get spooked by that stuff. It would spook me a little bit. Walter Clayton, you're playing 24% more in the field. Anthony Davis, 21% more. Zion, not that far behind. Embiid, not that far behind. Playing about 18% more for those guys than the field's expected ownership. Negative leverage plays. We got Gershon Yabusele, negative 16%, but still playing him 22% of the top 150. VJ Edgecombe, not coming up a lot. Again, you've got the real players in. I know he was fun in the preseason, but I probably wouldn't want to play him at 5K. You're getting only 5% of him in Stokastic's top 150, which is 10% less than the field's expected to have. Mikal Bridges, negative 10%, 16% expected ownership. Fields ownership is that. Stokastic at 7. OG Anunoby down to 2. Again, if Towns is in, these guys just don't look like as good of a play. And Kawhi Leonard, a negative 7% leverage play, according to Stokastic data, so that's how that looks. I'm going to give you guys my splash plays of the day. Again, I guess assuming that Towns plays. But before I do that, guys, please do make sure to hit that like button. Please subscribe. It does go a long way for me here. I'm just one dude showing you my gambling, and I really do appreciate all of you guys who watch live here. It's pretty awesome to see the channel here being dormant for 5 months, and we're getting pretty good views. But I'm here doing the work every day, no matter how the NBA season goes. I show up. Last year, you guys could attest to it. I was doing videos all the way through the NBA Finals. This year, that's my goal again. As long as you guys support the show, hit subscribe, hit the like button, join the channel. That helps out a lot as well. $5 if you just want to support the show and join the Discord. A little bit more if you want my projections, but it all supports what I'm trying to do here. And same thing for Stokastic, 15% off. I'll link down below. Use the promo code SPLASH on there, or just click the link and take whatever deal you want over there, including some of the NBA deals they have going. Follow your heart for that. For today, though, splash plays for the day. Assuming Towns plays, it's him. He looked fantastic to me. He looked like about a 49 fantasy point projection. So if he's going to be full go and starting, I'll be willing to ride with that. If he doesn't go, Brunson would, same thing for me. PJ Washington has to be a splash play. Again, nothing brave, but let's pass the IQ test day one. Even if things go weird for him, if he comes off the bench, I think you should play him less if he comes off the bench, but he still should probably pay off well enough at a 3K minimum. compared to some of the other 3K minimum guys as well, he is a legit player who has spiked a real upside before, has a real role in the team. And like Walter Clayton, Javon Small, whatever else, Dominic Barlow, those guys can pay off because they're probably going to get some amount of minutes. But like PJ Washington is like in the rotation in a real way, and those guys we're assuming are in the rotation in a meaningful way. Who else would be a splash play? The fucking Towns thing really throws off the arithmetic I had for this in my brain. I mean, those would be the biggest ones. I think Towns, if in, along with PJ Washington, and Brunson, if Towns is out. I think those are the biggest stands I will have. But, you know, there's been a lot we talked about here, so do whatever you want. Make yourself happy playing NBA DFS. I'll be back on Stokastic in 3 hours at 6 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate all you guys watching. Hit that like button before you go. Subscribe. Do something to give me money. And make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at Splash Play Bets on YouTube, especially if you want to get the projections and all that on Twitter at Splash Play Pod. And I will see you guys tomorrow for this. I also am doing NFL tomorrow. We got a lot, guys. So enjoy your days. Good luck. And catch you later on Stokastic. All right. Bye-bye.